out and what it does to your family. Well, when it's a child coming out to you, I think it's different than if you were an adult person coming out to your parents. They're still obviously your parents, but we have other things to worry about. I had to immediately worry about school and his friends, and you know, Sean's a smart little kid, and he had surrounded himself with excellent friends. Not one friend turned their back on him. All of his guy friends and all of his girlfriends. He broke a lot of girls' hearts. A lot of girls were very upset. He said several people offered to, you know, change his mind, and he said, no, I'm all set, really. I never thought that first night that there'd be so much humor around this subject. We sort of use humor. We do at PFLAG too.
Yeah, all the time.
To diffuse sometimes some really hurtful or upsetting topics. And you know, that very first night, within hours of Sean telling us, you know, I said, Sean, I have friends that can't find a good man. You know, it's really hard. You realize it's going to be difficult to find a good man. And right off the bat, we were already, you know, laughing about it. We're also living in a different age with technology, and that was a concern. We have several concerns right off the bat. Who to tell? Do we tell? Do we not tell? And initially, Sean said, no, I just want you guys to know. Okay, in theory, that sounds good, but you go to a school with, you know, 3,000 students. Your brother goes to school there. Your grandmother works there. I have 2 friends that work there. If you have a boyfriend, I'm going to find out by the time you get home from school. So there's certain people we need to tell. My big mantra for probably the first year was, you know, if you want to be treated with respect, you need to be respectful of other people. And I don't think your grandmother watching you hold hands with someone on campus is the way for her to find out. I didn't think that was respectful, and I thought it was hurtful. And in regards to the technology, about 2 weeks after Sean came out to us, he changed his status on Facebook. I said, you did what? He says, I changed my status on Facebook. Look, I'm into boys or men, and I'm in a relationship. I said, okay, Sean.
You just told how many people?
I said, that means that not only do all your friends know that, which that's fine, that's his business, but your aunt, your cousins, I said, it's sitting in their computer waiting to be discovered. So that's when we sort of, I don't want to say pressured, but we encouraged him to let us tell close family. And he agreed, and he said that we could, and we sort of started doing that in our own time, but we didn't do it quick enough because just what I said, or just what I was worried about did happen. And one of my nieces discovered it, and she called her mom over to the computer and said, what do you think this means? And she says, I think it means Sean's gay. You know, do you think Tim and Kathy know? Should we tell them we know? Does Nana know? There was, for 3 days, the family was having angst about telling. And it finally all came out, and we are truly, truly blessed, and I've also found out we're more the exception than the rule in that Sean has 100% support of our entire immediate family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins on both sides. Everyone has been incredibly supportive, varying different degrees, because everybody meets this topic in their own place. And I think I credit Sean with, you know, making people sort of face things that maybe they were a little uncomfortable about before. But everyone has been amazing. Some to my surprise, some not to my surprise at all. But that's not a lot of Sean's peers' experience at all. And that, to me, I've shared with the group, that's the part I have the hardest time with, because Sean has brought home friends as well as boyfriends. He's had a handful of boyfriends. And for the most part, that's not their experience. They're having a hard time, even just getting past mom and dad. And that's heartbreaking. It's absolutely devastating to me, because I kind of want to scream and shake them and say, I was in your shoes. I know exactly what it feels like to hear those words. I know what it feels like to say those words for the first time. And I have said to Sean, I don't pretend to know what you've gone through. I would never presume to speak for you, but you in turn can't speak for me. Right. As hard as it was for you to say those words, it's just as hard to hear them.
Yep.
And from a different point of view, and especially with him being a child, well, not anymore, but when he came out, he was still a minor, you go into that parent protection mode. And, you know, how am I going to protect you from the world? Because the world isn't necessarily a nice place. And that was my husband's biggest concern, was somebody hurting Sean.
Yes.
Just because he's gay. And that's scary as a parent. And you do think about, what are people going to say about us? What are people going to think about Sean? And there is that personal, you know, how does this affect me? Because it does affect us.
Yeah.
99%, I would say, in a positive way. I think I'm a better parent now. I think I'm a better person now. I'm aware of things in this community that I couldn't even begin to comprehend before. You know, I wasn't aware of the discrimination that still exists, not only in this country, but around the world.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You know, Sean is applying for a scholarship to spend some time in China this summer.
Wow.
And when he was sharing this exciting news with my husband and I, we had him on speakerphone. We were very excited, and we got off the phone, and I immediately went to the computer and looked up where does China stand on homosexuality? Because if it's not safe for you to go there, you're not going.
Right.
You know, and there's still so many countries where it's illegal, and this punishment is severe.
Yes.
And so that's something that, again, as I said, I didn't have any issues, I didn't have any biases to worry about, but I also didn't have a lot of information. There's a lot that I just didn't know. So we've had to educate ourselves.
Sure.
Yes.
We and Sean.
We've met some parents who said that before their children came out to them, they were living in one universe. And all the while, unbeknownst to them, there was a parallel universe over here that involved having a gay child with all this stuff going on that was never on their radar. They never thought about it, they never worried about it.
Right.
They knew it was out there somewhere. But I thought that was that parallel universe kind of description. I thought that's a really good way to explain it, because most people don't even really think about it.
That's right. That's
and then all of a sudden, when they have a family member and it becomes their issue,
Now it's personal.
Now it's personal,
Right.
and it's a whole different kind of place to be.
But we have parented and continue to parent our sons. Sean has a younger brother who's 16. In that you don't judge people for any reason. You know, you don't judge someone on their color or their religion or their orientation. And we have discussed, which I find very ironic, we had on several occasions discussed homosexuality and various different points of the boy's development. You know, when Sean first started riding the school bus, he heard the word gay and he didn't know what it meant. So he was probably 5 years old. And I'm very thankful that we didn't have to go back and unsay anything that's been said in our house.
Right.
We've never said anything derogatory about people that were gay or transgendered or anybody. You know, we are by no means perfect, and I'm sure we've made lots of other mistakes, but in this particular area, I don't feel like we had to go back and say, oh, remember that time? Sorry, I didn't mean it.
Right.
You know, there were a lot of times where I've said things like, you know, I don't know anyone who's gay personally, but if they want to get married, why shouldn't they be able to get married? I don't see how their marriage would affect my marriage. And I said to Sean, when we were talking about coming on the show, I said, you know, how many times you're just laughing